The Road Warriors, the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, all Hall of Fame names. But somehow the Fantastics got left out. And if you know their story, that makes zero sense. Let's get into it in more detail. When people talk about the best tag teams in wrestling history, you'll usually hear names like the Road Warriors or the Midnight Express. But anyone who followed wrestling in the South during the 80s will tell you, the Fantastics deserve a spot right up there with the best. Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers were one of those teams that just clicked. Before they teamed up, both guys were already making their way through the tough world of territory wrestling. Bobby Fulton came up in Ohio. He learned the ropes wrestling in smaller shows, then moved on to bigger places like Jerry Jarrett's Continental Wrestling Association and Joe Blanchard's Southwest Championship Wrestling. He had a lot of heart and took a beating better than almost anyone. Tommy Rogers, born Tommy Couch, was from Florida. He trained with legends like Jack and Jerry Briscoe and the rough and tough Buzz Sawyer. He had a clean, fast style and one of the best drop kicks you'd ever see. He just looked like a natural in the ring. The two of them ended up in Bill Watts Mid-South Wrestling in 1984 and became the Fantastics. Their first match as a team was on June 20th, 1984, in Shreveport, Louisiana. Right away, fans could see the chemistry. Bobby would take the punishment, making fans rally behind him, and then Tommy would come flying in off the hot tag and clean house. It was classic tag team wrestling, and they did it perfectly. What really made the Fantastics shine were their rivalries. The most iconic was their long-running feud with the Midnight Express, managed by the always loud Jim Cornette. That battle stretched across promotions like Mid-South, World Class, and Jim Crockett Promotions. Match after match, it delivered fast-paced, emotional, must-see action. It wasn't just popular, it was legendary. In 1988, the Wrestling Observer newsletter named it Feud of the Year. They had other wild rivalries too, like the one with the Sheepherders, who later became the Bushwhackers in WWF. That feud ended with the Fantastics winning the UWF Tag Team titles. In World Class, they clashed with the Rock and Roll RPMs, which led to a scaffold match at the 1987 Parade of Champions. The Fantastics won that one too. They weren't just fan favorites, they were tag team anchors. They won gold in almost every territory they worked. Two-time NWA Tag Champs, two-time UWF Tag Champs, plus multiple title runs in World Class, Memphis, and Mid-America. Promoters knew they could trust the Fantastics to carry the division and draw crowds. In 2003, Pro Wrestling Illustrated ranked them number 63 on its list of the top 100 tag teams of all time. And that feud with the Midnight Express is still one of the most respected rivalries in wrestling history. But here's the strange part. They're still not in any major Hall of Fame. Not WWE's, not the NWA's, not even the Wrestling Observers. A lot of old school fans still don't understand why. The Fantastics were one of the best tag teams of their era. No gimmicks, no over-the-top promos, just smart, exciting wrestling. They knew how to get the crowd behind them. They knew how to tell a story. And them not being in the Hall of Fame is very confusing, and of course, a very big controversy. But before I touch this, there is more you need to know. Let's start with Tommy. Outside the spotlight, Tommy was fighting battles most people never saw. He was always open about it. He talked about how rough the wrestling life really was. The constant travel, the injuries, the pressure to look a certain way and stay strong enough to keep going. It wore people down. And like a lot of guys from that era, Tommy used steroids to keep up. He didn't hide it. He said Buzz Sawyer was the one who introduced him to them. And back then, steroids were just part of the business. Everyone was using something to recover faster or look better. It wasn't even seen as a big deal, but it took a toll. Later in life, Tommy blamed a lot of his pain on the years of steroid use. He once joked that he needed 2 hips, 2 necks, and now 2 ankles. But he was serious about the damage. His body was wrecked. And it wasn't just steroids. Tommy talked about painkillers, cocaine, and booze being everywhere in the business. He said he took Vicodin for pain, but that alcohol was what really stuck with him. Whiskey, vodka, beer, whatever helped take the edge off. He said he didn't go as far down the rabbit hole as some other guys, but he definitely had his struggles. It wasn't about partying, it was about coping. When you're wrestling night after night, living out of a suitcase, dealing with injuries and pressure, and no real support system, you start reaching for anything that makes it easier to get through the day. Unfortunately, Tommy Rogers passed away in 2015. He was only 54. As soon as the news broke, people online started talking. Some said it was suicide. Others thought drugs were involved. But his close friends and family, they weren't having it. One of them, his buddy crybaby, Francis Buxton, spoke up right away. He said while Tommy wasn't depressed, he loved life. He was making plans for the future. So what was the truth? It was a medical screw-up. Tommy had been dealing with serious back pain for years, so he finally went in for spinal fusion surgery. After the operation, things started to go wrong. He was bleeding, having trouble swallowing, and kept telling the nurses something didn't feel right. But before they could do a scan, he passed out, and he never woke up. Later, it came out that the hospital had messed up his intubation. Basically, the breathing tube wasn't placed properly. His wife, Tammy Rogers, ended up suing the hospital and the doctor. The jury sided with her and awarded $4,488,000. Most of the blame fell on the nurses, but the doctor got called out too. An autopsy also found a blood clot in Tommy's neck, though there was some back and forth on whether that actually caused his death. It was just an awful way for things to end. And the worst part? The rumors never really stopped. Even with all the facts out there, some fans still cling to the suicide story. That's just how it goes sometimes, especially in wrestling. Gossip spreads faster than truth, and once a story takes off, it's hard to reel it back in. But Tommy wasn't the only one suffering. Back in December 2019, Bobby shared that he had throat cancer. It was a scary diagnosis, and his fight was long and painful. He had several surgeries, including one in late 2021. He said he almost died 6 times since finding out he had cancer. One of the worst moments was when an artery in his throat burst. He drove himself to the hospital while bleeding badly. Doctors later told him that most people wouldn't survive something like that. But he made it. In 2020, Bobby said he was cancer-free. He also said the radiation treatments were so extreme, the doctors told him, "We had to kill you to heal you." That kind of strength shows what kind of person Bobby is. But lately, his name has been caught up in something very different and very messy. Years ago, Bobby started his own wrestling company in Ohio. It was called James Hines Presents Big Time Wrestling. James Hines is Bobby's real name. These days, the promotion is still active, and Bobby's son, Dylan Hines, plays a big role in running it. But here's where things get rough. A lot of wrestlers have come forward saying they were treated badly by the promotion. Some say they were promised money and never got it. Others say they were banned just for speaking up. One of the biggest voices is Rob Van Dam, better known as RVD. He's a well-known name from ECW and WWE. RVD said he wasn't paid what he was owed for events during WrestleMania and SummerSlam weekends. He went public with his story and said, "Just pay me what you owe me, and we'll be cool." After that, he said a bunch of other wrestlers reached out to him with similar stories. Instead of handling it quietly, Dylan fired back. He called RVD names and accused him of being a liar and a drug addict. That made everything worse. Dylan has since deleted his social media accounts after blocking critics. The promotion also paused ticket sales for an upcoming event, saying it was going through new ownership. It's not clear what that really means. All of this has made Bobby's name harder to protect. Even if he didn't do anything wrong, the fact that the promotion uses his name means he's still tied to the drama. This can hurt his reputation, especially if people don't know the full story. Whether or not he's directly involved in every decision, his reputation has taken some serious hits. And that brings us to one big question. Why aren't the Fantastics in a major Hall of Fame? It's something fans have wondered for years. Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers were one of the best tag teams of their era. They had great matches, big rivalries, and they worked across multiple territories. But even with all that, they've never been given that top-level Hall of Fame recognition. And to understand why, we need to look at how those Halls of Fame actually work and how weird and political they can get. Take the WWE Hall of Fame. Everyone's heard of it. It's the one that gets the most attention, with big speeches and yearly inductions around WrestleMania. But here's the thing. There are no real rules. WWE doesn't have a clear system. It's not based on votes, stats, or even fan support. It's mostly about who the company wants to spotlight. For years, Vince McMahon personally picked who went in. A lot of the choices were based on marketing, business relationships, and PR, not just talent or legacy. Some people got in even though their careers were full of controversy. Others were left out for decades because of personal drama. Ultimate Warrior had a rocky past with WWE and still made it in. JBL got in despite a history of backstage bullying. And Chyna, who helped break down barriers for women in wrestling, only got in as part of a group, not for her singles career. Meanwhile, guys like Randy Savage and Vader had to wait way too long, and Owen Hart still hasn't been inducted because of personal issues between the company and his family. So for the Fantastics, the situation's pretty clear. They only wrestled once in WWE, a single match in 1997. Their biggest success was in the territory days, long before WWE cared about that history. And when WWE does acknowledge territory stars, it's usually through the legacy wing, which is more of a side mention than a big moment. Add in recent controversies tied to Bobby Fulton's promotion, and it's easy to see why WWE hasn't made the call. It's less about what they did in the ring and more about how they fit into the company's current image. But what about the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame? That one's taken more seriously by hardcore fans. It's run by journalist Dave Meltzer, and people get inducted based on votes from experts, historians, and other wrestling professionals. This hall actually has rules. You need to have been in the business a long time, made a major impact, had great matches, and drawn crowds. You also need a majority vote to get in. It's not just someone's opinion behind the scenes. By those standards, the Fantastics should be in. Their career as a tag team spanned over 2 decades. Tommy Rogers started in '79, Bobby Fulton in '81. They wrestled in major promotions like Mid-South, UWF, World Class, and Jim Crockett Promotions. Their feud with the Midnight Express in the late '80s is still talked about today. That rivalry even won Feud of the Year in 1988. They weren't just popular, they were innovators, known for fast-paced, high-flying matches that kept fans on the edge of their seats. So why haven't they been voted in? It's hard to say. Maybe they're just being overshadowed by more famous tag teams. Maybe voters lean more towards single stars, or maybe, even in this more serious hall, people still get influenced by behind-the-scenes drama or forget how important some territory acts really were. There are a few other halls of fame out there too. The NWA Hall of Fame seems like a natural fit. The Fantastics held multiple NWA titles, but they haven't been inducted. The Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, which wasn't tied to any company, had a great setup with different categories and even inducted teams like the Bushwhackers, who had major feuds with the Fantastics. But that hall closed down in 2021 and hasn't reopened. There's also the Indie Wrestling Hall of Fame, run by GCW. Bobby Fulton kept wrestling in indie promotions for years, and the Fantastics even reunited a few times. Still, no spot for them there either. Bobby Fulton has received some recognition. He was inducted into the WAR Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2017. It's a nice honor, but it's local. It's not on the level of a WWE or Observer Hall of Fame, where legacies are cemented for a global audience. So here we are. 2 legends, it's all there. But in the world of wrestling, that's not always enough. Timing, politics, personal baggage, all of that can get in the way. Hopefully the right people start paying attention. Because if you really know wrestling history, you know the Fantastics deserve their spot. Thanks for sticking around and watching till the end. I know this was a deep cut into wrestling history, but stories like this matter. The Fantastics weren't just another tag team. They helped shape an era. They brought heart, grit, and incredible energy to every ring they stepped into. And yet, here we are, decades later, still wondering why they haven't gotten the recognition they clearly earned. If you think the Fantastics deserve a spot in a major Hall of Fame, or if you think there's more to the story, let's talk about it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Do you agree they've been overlooked? Do you think there's still time to make it right? And if you were booking the Hall of Fame, who else would you put in alongside them? If you enjoyed this video, hit like. It really helps more people find these kinds of wrestling stories. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. This channel is all about shining a light on the legends, the unsung heroes, and the moments that shape pro wrestling, even if the big companies don't always give them the credit they deserve. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, protect the business, respect the legends, and never stop being a fan.